All right, welcome everyone. Hope everyone's enjoying some extra sunshine and longer evenings with daylight savings this weekend. I guess we're all a little tired, but we're all here, and so just really appreciate you all taking the time to join us today. This is the Fung Fellowship Info Session for our Fall 2026 cohort. And we are really excited to share a little bit about our program today and excited for you all to directly hear from our student panelists about their experience in the program thus far, and also really hear from them about the current projects they're currently working on this semester. And so to kick things off here, we will begin with some introductions. We also have a few slides prepared for you all to give you a little peek into what the fellowship entails. So first up, we'll be kicking off with a quick round of introductions, and then we'll dive right into our program information. We'll be sharing a little bit about our story, how the fellowship came to be. We've been around since 2016, but we've evolved over the years. And we'll also share some key topics and areas that the fellowship covers. I know there's lots of questions around that. We'll also talk a little bit about our program or our track offerings, health plus innovation and sustainability plus innovation. And then the best part of this session, as I often hear students say, is the projects, our student projects. You will be hearing directly from our student panel about their projects with industry partners and the progress that they've made on that thus far into this spring semester. And after that, we'll go over some important details about the application, some tips, some deadline and next steps. And finally, we'll wrap up with a Q&A session. Any questions you have for us, please feel free to drop them in the chat, or you can also come off of mute. I will say that when I'm sharing my screen, I have this like weird setup going on, so I'm not able to look at the chat in real time, but I will definitely take a look at it at the end of this session. So just want to let you all know that that will be coming up. And with that, we will officially start with introductions here, and I am happy to start with mine. Again, welcome everyone. My name is Priyanka. I use she and her pronouns. I am the program manager for the Fung Fellowship, and the Fung Fellowship here actually sits within the larger Fung Institute at UC Berkeley, and we're actually one of the several programs under that umbrella. And across all of them, across all of our undergrad, grad, and professional ed programs, our mission is really the same at the core, which is to help develop and help foster the next generation of leaders and equipping them to make a real impact across technology and society. And my role here within the Fung Fellowship and the Institute is really centered around student experience and programmatic elements, program development. But I think for the fellowship, closely really working with the teaching team and making sure that from day one, students feel supported, engaged, and are set up for success. And honestly, I've been here for 3 years now, and every year it's beyond inspiring to work alongside students from across the campus and really getting to witness their creativity, how they think through that whole design process, and just helping push that great work forward. Um, and can't wait to continue working with you all as a next cohort, and welcome you all to the program. So with that, I will pass it on to my team to introduce themselves. But with that, I'll really turn it over to Janine and Mars.
Yeah, hi, good evening, everybody. Yes, happy daylight savings. Although we lose an hour, it is nice. It's the days are longer. So I'm Janine Bernard. I'm the Associate Director of Student Services and Operations here at Fung. So as Priyanka mentioned, this is one program amongst this ecosystem at the Institute. So I'm here to help support and kind of shed light on the other side. We manage mostly the Master of Engineering. So maybe some of you all want to apply to that when the time comes. And it's the same kind of mission, right? It's training the world's next leaders, and so in engineering and beyond. So nice to see everybody.
Thank you, Janine.
Hey
Marcy.
there. My name is Mars Rivas. I'm the Senior Admissions Officer with the Fung Institute. So my role here at the program is to sort of guide graduate students into the admissions process. So whenever it comes time for you all to apply to graduate school, basically you'll be able to lean on me for resources, for help, like drafting up your application and making sure that you have all of the right materials that you need to be able to advance. And so a lot of our things like here at the Institute are really truly outlined within leadership and advancement. And so hopefully we can provide some support for y'all as you make your way through the program. And so thank you for being here, and we look forward to getting to know you a little more. Thank you, Priyanka.
Thank you, Mars. Thank you, Janine. So great to have you both here. And with that, I will um, turn it over to our student panelists here. If you all could please share your name, pronouns, your track, your major at Cal, and maybe even a little bit about your experience in the fellowship thus far.
Hi everyone. I can go first. My name is Ananya. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm in the Sustainability and Innovation tract. I study MCB and IB, which are two of the, major biology degrees in the Letters and Sciences college. And I just joined the Fung Fellowship this semester, and it's been really great. I think it gives us a lot of experience of like working with real life companies and just an experience to be semi-independent, which I feel like we don't get much, at least on campus.
Amazing. Thanks, Ananya.
Hi everyone, my name is Marian Isaac. My pronouns are she, her. Like Ananya, I'm also majoring in MCB and IB. I'm on the health and innovation track and I'm a third year. My overall experience at the Fung Fellowship is very, very positive. We're getting to work with our partners is very, very intriguing and fascinating. And you get to learn a lot. And even though we're halfway through the semester, I've seen a lot of growth through the class. So it's honestly a really good thing.
Thanks, Marian.
Hi everyone, I'm Mark. Um, he, him pronouns. I'm currently in the health track and I'm studying data science. So I'm working on a pretty unique project in that we don't actually have a partner. We're working on kind of our own independent project. And that's something I really like about the Fung Fellowship. It allows you to work on these independent projects if you want to, and you have a lot of freedom to decide what you want to do um, for this project. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Mark.
Hi everyone, this is Silvan Huang, and you can call me Zoe as well. And my pronounce is she, her, and I'm in the track of substance and innovation, and I'm junior data science. And we work. I think the overall of this program, I think is very helpful, and you will learn a lot because it's like there is no one push you. You need to like decide everything by you and your team.
Really great. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Valentine. I'm a bioengineering junior. I'm also an international student from Jakarta, Indonesia. So because I'm in Bio-E and I'm specializing in molecular therapeutics, I chose the health and innovation track. Yeah, because I just really wanted to start innovating in the field of, medicine and to explore what biotech has to offer, especially here in the Bay Area where everything is moving at maximum acceleration.
Awesome. Thanks, Valentine, and thanks all for joining us today and for the introductions. You will all get to hear a little bit about their programs in just a little bit, and it looks like Jennifer might have joined us. Jennifer, sorry to put you on the spot right when you joined, but if you'd like to maybe share a brief introduction and say hello. Oh, I thought I saw her join, but maybe not. Sorry, y'all. Okay, I'll just move us along. There we go. Okay, so yes, moving along, then I will start with our story. And so, like many other programs on campus, we've gone through many iterations. Like I mentioned early on, we really started, we've been around since 2016 and we've evolved so much over the years. I think really responding to changing program needs, but also shifting global dynamics around us, right? And of course, after COVID, I think we had to kind of think about, okay, what does the curriculum look like and what does the teaching model look like? So lots of changes, I think, after the pandemic too, but continuously also responding to student feedback. And you've probably seen that on our website. We do really focus on co-creating student experience for impact. And what that essentially means is that we're continuously gathering feedback, engaging in active dialogue and participation to improve our offerings for our cohorts. And really tailoring our resources that we offer to meet the unique needs of our students in this program, especially since we work with such an interdisciplinary group. So it's been a very iterative process. But our story began back in 2016 as the brainchild of Coleman Fung, is pictured here with Pearl, a Cal alum, an Army veteran, an entrepreneur, and much, much more. He had a vision to create an undergraduate learning opportunity to foster design thinkers to solve real world industry problems while still incorporating emerging tech and interdisciplinary studies. So, really thinking beyond our major and academic disciplines. So in 2016, partnering with the College of Engineering and the School of Public Health, we began as a pilot program. And our first cohort was a 2-year program and was launched with only one track. Back then it was called Health Plus TAC, excuse me, sorry, Health Plus Tech, now called Health Plus Innovation. And another notable change happened in 2020 when we launched our new track, Conservation Plus Tech, now known as Sustainability Plus Innovation. And this was in partnership with the College of Natural Resources. And in 2023, as you've probably seen on our website already, we've changed our track names from tech to innovation for both of our tracks, really recognizing that the term innovation more holistically encompasses the fellowship's focus on technology, creativity, customer needs. And we really wanted to make sure that our track names kind of reflect that core takeaways of the fellowship experience because it is so much more than just technology. And earlier, actually last year, beginning of last year, we changed our program model from year long. It used to be a year long model, fall and spring, but now we've changed it to semester long format, essentially to provide you all with a more structured, high touch, and focused experience in this program. And we wanted to ensure that there's some flexibility because, like we all know, Cal is highly fast paced and there's like so many opportunities that you can take advantage of here. So we wanted to make sure that this is an experience that is deeply engaging but also adaptable. And then very recently, just earlier this year, we adopted a new name for our conservation track, changing from conservation to sustainability. Again, understanding and recognizing that the world's challenges, the current challenges, real world challenges, call for a bigger, more forward looking lens. And while preservation and conservation is important and necessary across the globe, we really wanted to also reflect the kind of expansive systems thinking model that we know that the next generation leaders like you all are capable of building. So that's kind of the intention behind all these shifts. And I think it's a great example of how we're always evolving to stay relevant and responsive to the world's most pressing challenges. So yeah, we like to switch things up here, which essentially also means that there's no right way of getting things done. And, sometimes we fail, we learn, and I think that's really that mindset we want you all to kind of bring to this program. So that's our story. Moving on to some of our core focus areas here in the fellowship. Um, Now, what makes this program so unique and special is that fellows really get to explore a diverse range of areas and topics. And I will say that this really varies from cohort to cohort, really depending on cohort interests, but also the project partners we recruit. And I think that really also helps us stay kind of relevant and fresh. But as a high level overview, the fellowship is centered around three core themes, what we also call like three core pillars of the fellowship, which are leadership, design, and innovation. On the leadership front, fellows dive into things like implicit bias, public speaking, and inclusive teaming, which includes both authentic leadership and also really learning how to show up and collaborate with the people around you, especially with different academic disciplines and different kind of life experiences. Design, which includes design thinking models, storytelling, journey mapping, really helping fellows think creatively and empathetically about problem solving. And then lastly, innovation kind of rounds it out with exposure to tech, emerging tech, existing tech. How do we leverage tech for social good? Ideation and prototyping, and just kind of use of that digital tech. And I think especially that's expanded since AI, right? So really exploring those landscapes. And so fellows are really getting kind of that well-rounded hands-on experience across these three core areas. And moving on to now the design challenge, which is probably a term you've heard before. This is really the real world experience that we keep mentioning, right? And fellows move through 5 stages for this design challenge, which is essentially your main project that you work on in the fellowship. So there's learning, defining, ideating, building and testing, and sharing out. And we really focus on a human-centered design model from start to finish. It essentially kicks off with how might we question? That is a challenge framework that really sets the direction of your work. And from there, fellows engage with real industry or community partners, often local Bay Area partners, which makes this experience incredibly grounded in like serving the community that we all share with. Teams usually 3 to 6 fellows from different majors. So you're truly working in a very interdisciplinary team. And I'm sure our fellows, the panel would touch on that a little bit when they talk about their projects. And the team that you work with, I would say also really mirrors the real world, right? And how, like post grad, when you take up that first job, you will be working with folks from all different, not just part of the countries, but parts of the world and different life experiences and different academic disciplines. So, kind of getting that experience early on. And then the solution itself is kind of developed through that full cycle, right? As you're researching, ideating, building, and testing. So just like how the fellowship has been through its inception, this design process is pretty iterative as well. And the timeline can range from a few weeks to a full semester. For your main design challenge, it's a full semester project, but there are some like shorter design sprints that you can take part in as well. Okay, I think I've covered it all here for this design challenge slide, and of course, happy to talk a little bit more about it at the Q&A portion of this segment as well. But moving on to what really drives the fellowship, and I yes. So, what drives the fellowship, which is essentially the core elements of that impact-driven innovation, which sits at the heart of the fellowship, and they serve as the foundation for how we learn, how we design, and how we implement change in our communities. And to go over these elements really quickly here, starting off with ideation. Understanding here that innovation starts with bold ideas. We really encourage fellows to push boundaries and challenge the status quo and think beyond conventional framework. You've already heard me say it. There's no right way to getting things done. We're always open to new ideas and newer novel ways of creating impact. So this is the area where kind of creativity thrives. And so you're really thinking outside the box. Second, community engagement. Impact does not happen in isolation, and we really believe that, and we appreciate that process. It requires a deep understanding of the people and communities we serve, and so with through active engagement with stakeholders and community partners and community members, we want to ensure that solutions are relevant and meaningful, and also meeting the needs of the targeted population. Collaboration on teaming, kind of on the same vein, right? We are working with community partners, but because we also don't have any kind of major restrictions, every semester we represent over 20 to 30 unique majors in our cohort. So we there will be lots of ideas and lots of kind of expertise, and often so we've realized that when we have a diverse group, solutions are more effective, inclusive, and sustainable. So speaking to that a little bit here, collaboration and teaming. Next up, we have design, building, which is again that hands-on prototyping. It includes low fidelity and high fidelity prototyping. It could also include like digital prototyping on Figma or some other tools that you might end up using. Design, you've heard me say this a couple of times already, just that human-centered design driven by deep empathy for end users. You're often building with community members and not just for them. They also touch on engineering mindsets, technology, also recognizing that emerging technologies have the power to bridge gaps and create just the lasting social impact. So whether it's AI or data science or other digital tools you would be using and getting exposed to, our fellows really learn how to leverage tech for innovative and ethical problem solving. Leadership, which again is our core pillar, includes everything from public speaking, storytelling, communication, and really helps you grow into confident leaders. And often what we call here in the fellowship is change makers. So those are all the elements we really focus on in the fellowship, and these are really integrated into the curriculum for both our health and sustainability track. And oh, actually, before I move on to the next slide, I do want to also mention that these often kind of work in harmony and often overlap. So, you'll see kind of all these elements work together when you're working on a project with the fellowship. And up next is our tracks. So to share a little bit about the two tracks we currently offer, health plus innovation and sustainability plus innovation. The fundamental pillars and the core elements that I just went over are covered under both of these tracks. But as a whole, these tracks are focused on two distinct areas. For the health track, we look at public health and well-being very broadly, as well as digital health. And so topics can include mental health, nutrition, social isolation, social justice, health disparities, and much more. And as we all know, these type of topics and challenges are very complex and requires in-depth assessment of policies, social, economic, as well as environmental factors. So all of those assessment pieces are also really integrated into the curriculum. And you can see some of the past topics that fellows have explored here. For the sustainability track, the core focus areas are biodiversity conservation and environmental health, as well as sustainability. And similar to health track, these topics have complex underlying issues and often needs an in-depth assessment of a diverse range of factors. And in the past years, fellows have explored topics like wildfire and air quality impacts, public education, environmental justice, as well as renewable energy and much more. I believe there will be links in the chat soon where you can also learn more about some of the projects that fellows have worked on in either of these tracks. So that is all about the programmatic pieces and the curriculum pieces of the fellowship. And with that, I will turn it over to Janine to share a little bit about our fellowship community.
Yes, and those links have been dropped. So I added them both together and then I added each one separately because it might be hard to differentiate between those two links. So they're in the chat. Yeah, and so just want to give y'all a fellowship overview of the cohort for this spring. There's 731 fellows. Of those, there's folks who self-identified as the following pronoun. So she, her, over 70%. He, his, 26%, and they, them, about 2%. We have 50% BIPOC, that's Black, Indigenous, and people of color as our students. That's great representation. About 28% identify as first gen in their families. 25% transfer students, aged 18% identify as LGBTQIA+. 13% probably received some kind of support through the Disabled Students Program. And as Priyanka mentioned earlier, there's over 70 unique majors represented, some of which include, as mentioned, data science, public health, EECS, MCB, environmental sciences, bioengineering, cog sci, computer science, economics, and a cornucopia of research of different majors, I mean, and about 30% of fellows have two or more majors. Berkeley undergrads are just relentless. And yeah, so as mentioned earlier, you also kind of get access to other things in this ecosystem. Oh wait, no, sorry, this is talking about the design process and the guest speakers and the lab section. That's all part of your fellowship process. And here we go. And then there's other things like field trips that you all go to. This could be you in this lab section, envision yourself, manifest. And then there's guest speakers that come by, and I believe the career services team also puts on events like this too. So there's never a dull moment for you Cal undergrads who are relentless, as I said.
Thank you, Janine. Yes, lots of exciting things happening here at the fellowship and within our institute, and we're also very intentional about like this community we're building. So even though with lecture and labs you will be meeting as separate cohorts, right, within your tracks throughout the semester, we offer cross collaboration opportunities, teaming opportunities where you get to kind of mingle with students from either of the tracks. So that is also something to keep in mind as Berkeley is a big campus, so it's sometimes hard to build community and find your community here. So we're also really intentional about that piece. And so with that, all right, the best part of this info session, the student projects. So I will really turn it over to our student panelists to share a little bit about the projects they're currently working on?
So the project that I'm working on right now within the Fung Fellowship is working with ReFed, which is a Berkeley organization that works with food waste and um, also just like how we use food and methane production. So our main project problem is how to reduce methane production from food waste on UC Berkeley campus. And to do this, we're looking at it from a couple different angles. So one main angle is looking at students. So we're developing and we've just sent out a survey for students on how food waste is produced. Grocery stores, refrigerator waste, or dining halls. And then we're also working with ReFed to change how students dispose of that trash, as well as structural barriers such as waste disposal and, the abundance of knowledge and ex access to how to understand proper disposal. And it's been really great. We've been working a lot with UC Berkeley campus and like several different people around campus. Um, and yeah.
That's pretty awesome. Thanks for sharing, Ananya. All right, moving on to the next project here. I believe this is Miriam.
Mhm. Hey, everyone. So my team and I are working on a project called Aging Well. Kaiser Permanente is our project partner, and our team is really focused on improving how seniors access digital healthcare tools. Through research and interviews that we've conducted, we found that a lot of older adults struggle with current healthcare applications and systems. So a lot of platforms include way too many instructions and small fonts that are like difficult to read and understand and go through. And so we are looking to address the problem of how we make digital healthcare tools easier and more accessible for seniors to use. And we're looking to address this by developing a prototype that simplifies the interface. And so our design focuses on larger buttons and fonts and less steps to complete tasks like booking appointments, clear navigation, intuitive icons. And you can see a little bit of our prototype down at the bottom left. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
So for my project, Navigating Care, my team is working on creating a solution to, sorry, to basically help patients figure out what exactly it is they have to do after medical appointments. Essentially, you go to an appointment, you might speak to some medical practitioner. Specifically, we've narrowed down our focus to helping pregnant women with this issue. But say you go to a medical practitioner, you may have some questions. The practitioner may give you a lot of information. You may not fully understand all that information because there is so much, and it may be very difficult to navigate all the information, all the pamphlets, the papers that you were given after an appointment. So that's just an incredibly difficult issue. What we're trying to do is we're trying to create this solution, Navigating Care, which you can see our prototype right there. It's supposed to help you with some of these things. It's supposed to help you keep track of things that you really need to be keeping track of. It's supposed to connect you with people who can answer these questions to you very quickly. We're also hoping to connect it to devices like Alexa so that you can ask those devices different questions and they'd be able to answer those questions based on what you have. We are pretty unique in that we don't have a project partner. This is an entirely student-run project, so it has its pros and cons. Definitely, we have more flexibility around our deadlines, but at the same time, we have to make our own deadlines. So that has its challenges. But it's been very fun, very enjoyable working on this project, and I really like the progress that we have made.
Amazing. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, and I should also add, I know when I went over the design challenge, I think I might have focused a lot on the piece of like industry and then community partners. But to Mark's point, right? You have an idea that you want to move forward, please bring it to us. And you still have that kind of same resources. There's a dedicated teaching team who can help you kind of shape up that project. And it's so amazing. Like how much work and then effort and time goes into it. And I think this is a pretty great prototype that you've shared with us. Awesome. And I believe we have two more projects to cover.
Oh, hi, everyone. Our team is working with Action Now Bay Area to build an interactive climate change action dashboard for Bay Area residents and the policymaker. The dashboard will visualize local emission data across the three sectors, like energy, building, and transportation, and present it in two models, a simple, accessible view for general public, and a detailed view for expert. We believe many Bay Area residents care about climate change, but don't know how to start and what action to take. We think the existing tools are too technical and not designed for everyone. And the problem is what we want to solve. And right now, we are in the research phase, conduct the expert interview and collect the community survey. So far, our data shows that 55% of residents is highly concerned about climate change, but only 4 turn to government website information. The gap is what we are designed for. Based on our finding, our design will emphasize local data, actionable step, and engage visual, so residents can connect climate concern to real action. That's what we want to do.
Amazing. Thank you. And this is very timely, right? So, and again, it's so great how kind of like thinking through that interview process to the final product that you will have in a few weeks. Awesome. And I believe one last project, last but not least.
So this is our project for the Quit the Hit program at UCSF. So our project lead from UCSF is actually a doctor. I think she's an internist, but she's also the head of the Quit the Hit program, which is basically a virtual nicotine addiction program. So it's fully virtual. It's being hosted on Instagram. And the one thing that they wanted us to help them with was to maintain user engagement throughout the trial, because what happens is that they start getting ghosted by a lot of the users, and they just need data in order to know how to help these people, these users, right? And so that's really our aim of the project, to just help maintain this engagement. And then we're just trying to figure out different ways, different strategies to target Gen Z users. So for example, we've talked about unlocking monetary rewards for every X weeks or phases completed. We're thinking about how we should divide the time so that people feel more incentivized and people feel a bigger urge to continue going. We've also talked about integrating personal health progress and smoking pattern tracker apps into the program. So this could be an app, this could be a website, but basically it gives you notifications on like a daily basis, helps motivate you. For example, if you say like when you sign up for the app, you say, oh, I'm doing this for my cat, and then we send you notifications of a picture of your cat, something like that, right? Yeah, so we're just trying to personalize it for everyone, thinking maybe even about doing discounts with pharmaceutical partners. But yeah, basically our aim is just to maintain participant engagement. And we're just thinking about a bunch of strategies to do that. And we're doing that through a bunch of user interviews.
Right. Awesome. Yes. Thank you for that thorough overview. And I think you're really kind of shedding light on why it's important to really kind of meet with those folks who are going through these challenges. So your focus on the interviews right before really starting to develop a product for them and with them. Awesome. I believe those are all the projects, and I think we're good on time here. So before we go on to the Q&A segment, really quickly want to talk a little bit about the application process here. The deadline about a month, a little less than a month from now, Sunday, April 5th at 11:59 p.m. The application is just a few questions. I'm going to say like 3 personal statement-like questions, which should take you anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes to fill out. And we essentially really want to just hear from you what brings you to the space, whether you're interested in health or the sustainability track, what parts of it are you interested in? Are there any specific skills you're hoping to build and contribute? So it's very open-ended questions, really wanting to hear about your experiences and the skills that you want to want to hone in during your time in the fellowship. And again, as a reminder, there's no major restrictions or GPA requirements. That is a little bit about the application process here. If at any point as you're working on the application, you have more questions for us or you want to connect one-on-one, please do not hesitate to reach out. But with that, I am going to stop recording here.